The first thing my mother said when Grandpa retired wasn't, "Congratulations." It was, "At least you won't be wearing that janitor's uniform anymore." Grandpa Henry just smiled. It paid the bills. It also embarrassed this family, my father muttered. I was 16 when I first heard those words. Grandpa had spent 43 years as a janitor at one of the largest corporate headquarters in the city. He never complained. He arrived before sunrise every day. He knew every security guard, receptionist, engineer, and executive by name. To me, he was simply Grandpa. The man who taught me to fix bicycles, plant tomatoes, and always return borrowed tools cleaner than I found them. But my parents saw only one thing. His job title. Whenever neighbors asked what Grandpa did, my father would awkwardly answer. He worked in facilities. He never said the word janitor. Grandpa noticed. He just never said anything. Years later, Dad received a promotion. To celebrate, his company hosted a black tie awards banquet. Employees could each invite 2 guests. Dad invited Mom. Mom invited me. Grandpa wasn't supposed to come. Until the morning of the event. My grandmother came down with the flu. She begged Grandpa not to stay home alone. So I quietly asked Dad. Can Grandpa come instead of me? Dad frowned. No. I'll stay home. Grandpa overheard us. He smiled. Don't worry. I've got my old tuxedo. Dad sighed. It's not about the tuxedo. I just don't think this is the right event. Grandpa understood immediately. He nodded. You don't want your coworkers knowing your father was a janitor. Dad looked away. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. That evening, Grandpa arrived anyway. Wearing the same tuxedo he'd worn to my high school graduation. Perfectly pressed. Perfectly polished. As we entered the ballroom, I noticed something unusual. Several employees greeted Grandpa before they greeted my father. Mr. Henry. It's wonderful to see you. Grandpa smiled warmly at each of them. Dad looked increasingly uncomfortable. During dinner, one executive walked over. He shook Grandpa's hand enthusiastically. I haven't seen you in years. Grandpa laughed. I've been keeping busy. The executive smiled. You deserve every bit of it. Dad leaned toward me. Who is that? I don't know. Then the host stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen. Our CEO has just arrived. The room immediately stood. My father straightened his tie. The company's billionaire CEO entered surrounded by senior executives. He slowly greeted employees table by table. Eventually, he reached ours. Dad stood proudly. Good evening, sir. The CEO barely glanced at him. Instead, he looked directly at Grandpa. His face lit up. Without hesitation, the billionaire walked around the table. Wrapped Grandpa in a warm hug. Then stepped back. Smiled. And said 4 words that left the entire ballroom speechless. You saved my life. The ballroom went completely silent. My father's smile vanished. My mother stared at Grandpa in disbelief. The CEO kept his hand on Grandpa's shoulder. I've wanted to thank you properly for years. Grandpa looked embarrassed. You don't owe me anything. The CEO smiled. I owe you everything. Guests leaned closer. Someone whispered. What is he talking about? The CEO turned toward the audience. 22 years ago, I was a young vice president working late in this very building. He paused. It was past midnight. I was exhausted and rushing to finish a proposal. Grandpa listened quietly. The CEO continued. As I headed to the parking garage, Henry stopped me. He smiled. He said, don't take the elevator. It's making a strange noise. Several people exchanged confused looks. I thought he was just being cautious. So I took the stairs. He took a slow breath. Less than a minute later, the elevator's cable system failed. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. It fell several floors before the emergency brake stopped it. The room was silent. If I'd been inside. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The CEO looked at Grandpa. You noticed something no one else did. Grandpa shrugged modestly. I'd been hearing that sound for 2 days. So I reported it. The repair crew wasn't scheduled until morning. I figured one more warning couldn't hurt. The CEO smiled. It saved my life. He turned toward the crowd. Most people never knew who prevented that tragedy. Because Henry never told anyone. One of the executives nodded. That's true. He refused every award we offered. Grandpa chuckled. I was just doing my job. The CEO shook his head. No. You were protecting people. He reached into his jacket pocket and removed a small velvet box. Inside was a gold company pin. Only a handful had ever been awarded. He carefully fastened it to Grandpa's tuxedo. This is our lifetime service medal. The highest honor our company gives. The ballroom erupted in applause. Many employees stood. Then everyone else followed. My father remained frozen. After several minutes, he slowly walked over to Grandpa. His voice barely rose above a whisper. Dad. I'm sorry. Grandpa looked at him kindly. For what? For spending years being ashamed of your job. Grandpa smiled. My work was never something to be ashamed of. No. My father lowered his head. My attitude was. Grandpa gently hugged him. Then let's leave it there. Later that evening, the CEO invited Grandpa onto the stage. Before ending his speech, he said. Buildings don't stay safe because of titles. They stay safe because ordinary people take extraordinary pride in their work. He looked at Grandpa. Henry never wanted recognition. But tonight, he deserves it. The applause lasted nearly a full minute. Months later, the company renamed its Employee Service Award the Henry Carter Integrity Award. It wasn't given to the highest-ranking employee. Or the one who made the most money. It was awarded to the person who quietly made everyone else's lives better. Above the award display was a simple plaque with Grandpa's favorite saying. No honest work is small when it protects someone else. Every time I visited the headquarters, I walked past that plaque and smiled. Because my parents had spent years measuring a man by his uniform. The CEO measured him by his character. And in the end, character was the only thing anyone remembered.